have a quorum, so we have to.
Are we okay to start then?
Okay. Okay. Are we okay to move forward? Okay, with that, the time is now 5:02, so we will call the meeting to order. Like Doug said, my name is Brooke Smith, and I'm the city recorder and also the secretary for the RDA. Because we don't have a chair or vice chair for the RDA, I will be conducting the start of this meeting. The first order of business is to ask the board to nominate and vote for a pro tem chair for this meeting only. Would the board like to make any recommendations or nominations?
I will make a nomination to nominate Diane to be the pro temp chair for this meeting.
Do we have a second?
I second it.
Do all in favor say aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Okay, I will now turn the time over to Councilmember Turner to conduct the rest of the meeting.
Thank you, Brooke. Okay. I'll bring this meeting. Okay, we'll get started. This is the RDL, the Redevelopment Agency of Murray. The agenda is for the Tuesday, January 4th, 2022 meeting, and we will start with number 1, which is the approval of November 16th, 2021 RDA meeting minutes. If there are no questions, additions, then are there? If there are not, then I would ask for to have a motion.
I would like to make a motion to approve the November 16th meeting minutes.
Do we have a second?
I second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? No?
No.
Then we will. Okay, the motion passes. Number 2 is citizen comments. Let's see, public comments can be made in person during the meeting or may be submitted by sending an email. All comments are limited to 3 minutes or less, and email comments will be read into the meeting record. Do we have any citizen comments?
No.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, now we are at the third, which is election of the RDA chair, and I will open this for nominations.
I would like to nominate you, Diane, for chair of the RDA.
Do we have a second?
I second that.
All right. Diane Turner has been nominated for the RDA chair. Do we take roll? Okay. Brooke, would you please take roll?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now I will open nominations for election of the RDA vice chair. Can I nominate? Okay, great. Okay. I would like to nominate Rosalba Dominguez as the RDA vice chair. Do I have a second?
I second that.
All right. Brooke, would you take the vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess that's it. We will call this adjourned. Thank you.
We'll be back.
Yes. Welcome. It's about 5:16. We're a little late for the committee of the whole, but here we go for January 4th, 2022. The first issue is the approval of minutes for the committee of the whole for November 16th, 2021. Are there any questions, additions, concerns? If not, I will take a motion.
I would like to make a motion that we approve the committee of the whole minutes for November 16th, 2021.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Let's see. Let's take the vote then.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Brooke. All right, discussion items. The first one is discussion on amending the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget. Brenda, it's you. You have 20 minutes.
I don't think I will take 20 minutes. I never have, but we'll see.
Oh, thank you.
So Pam gets to the very first meeting talk about adjusting the budget.
Yes.
Fun. So this is my second budget opening of the year, and I'll just kind of go through. I actually have a PowerPoint if I can get it to work. There we go. So tonight we're going to talk about what's going to be on the budget opening, and then on the 18th we'll have a public hearing, take public comment, and then ask you to approve this. So the first thing, we have some grants and reimbursements that we have received. These do not affect our reserves in any way. We get the revenue, and then I put it in an expense account that goes with the revenue. So we have $1,660 of, I call it the beard donation money. The police are allowed to grow beards, and I think they have something for female officers that they can dress a little more casual or do something for a donation, and they do that for October, November, and December. So they put that into the miscellaneous fund for the victims advocates so that they can do miscellaneous expenses, emergency expenses for victims of crime and various other things that are going on. We received $90,000 from the ZAP grant for funding for the arts. Because we do subsidize the arts, we are actually, I'm going to put that back into reserves. And so she's just made $90,000 less of a subsidy for the arts program. $7,500 for the EMPG grant. I had previously budgeted $8,000, but it came in higher, and I had only done one quarter because they didn't get it approved until after our year started. So we're going to do that, and that pays for a portion, a very small portion of Joey Middleton's salary. But he does do the emergency preparedness for us. I've got in here that's not in the normal, that wasn't in your packet. We did receive $18,404 more dollars than what I had budgeted in the state alcohol funds. So instead of getting $70,000 like I budgeted, we received $88,404. And so that's $18,000. And it will go into a equipment for the police. They use the alcohol funds for cameras, storage, body cams, some car cams, the whole, mostly cameras is what they use it for, or camera film storage. We received $15,000 from the Utah Division of Arts and Museums for programming. That one is a normal, we usually get that every year, but I don't count on it, so I don't budget it until they actually get it. We got $20,000 from Utah Humanities for ARPA grant. So they got this money from the federal government and passed it on to us. We're going to use that for increased staffing at the museum as they're getting ready to move, and various other arts and history programs. We received $516,286 from the state of California for our firefighting efforts. The state of California reimburses us for travel. They reimburse us for salaries for the firefighters who go there, plus the overtime, because they work probably 16 hours of overtime every day. I mean, it's a 24-hour shift, and they get 8 hours to sleep, and that's it. So they also backfill and pay for the overtime for the firefighters who remain here and have to work overtime to cover for the firefighters who leave. And they pay us rent on our apparatus that we take with us. So in the past, I haven't actually done this, but in this one, I'm going to transfer some of that apparatus rent to the CIP fund and save it for when they need to replace that truck, because it's going to need to be replaced sooner than if they just hung out here and did local fires. So part of that is to transfer the rent on that apparatus to the CIP fund.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I read that and I think, wow, good
Yeah.
job.
And you'll also see further down, I'm going to take $75,000 of capital projects reserve. That's from the last year's California firefighting, the 2020 time they went. That was what was left, or what the rent was on them. So I will put that into the fire savings also.
Great.
Pull that back out of reserves. And I always pull it out of reserves from CIP, because if it sits in reserves, we might accidentally use it for something else. If it sits in the fire budget, he will only use it for his equipment
Great.
when it's necessary. So the other thing we have in there is the library fund received some ARPA money to continue to pay for the hotspots that we have over there. You can go over and rent a hotspot. I'm heading over this week because I'm leaving town. And I'll just take one of their hotspots with me, so I don't have to worry about internet connections. And so from reserves, these are the ones that I'm actually taking from reserves. The pavilion project, number 5, which we've heard about for 3 years now, is finally almost done. And we've all been in there, and it is a beautiful project. They need another $135,000 to complete that, along with all of the surrounding landscaping that they redid, and I believe that tabletop crosswalk that they have there. So now there's a crossing to get from that side of the road to the other, which probably needed to happen a long time ago. So that's what's coming out of capital projects from reserves to complete that project. Also, I just talked about the $75,000 for the fire equipment from the 2020 firefighting. And then when I did the initial budget for the MBA, I moved $20 million of our bond proceeds forward, not knowing exactly how much construction they would get done in fiscal 21. I need to move another $8,330,000 forward that's the remaining amount that went into reserves. We need to pull it back out so that we can continue to build the city hall. So their budget for the year will be $28,330,000. Some of this is actually interest that $34 million that we dumped in there has earned, but at 0.5%, it's not earning very much. But that interest does need to be used for the building. It's
What does
restricted.
MBA stand for?
Municipal Building Authority.
Thank you.
They are the entity that's building City Hall.
Right.
And then the other final thing that is on here is our bonding activity. We went out and you guys approved the HB 244 bonds, is what I call them, where we went out to do sold private placement bonds of $6.5 million. And I'm allocating the bond proceeds for that to $43,000 was to pay the costs of the issuance. And the rest, $6,489,954, will be transferred to the Capital Projects Fund, where Danny and Trey are working diligently to spend that on road projects in the next 3 years. They've got a whole list and they're ready to go. So That's what we're going to use that for. And does anybody have any questions?
No, that's great. That was a really good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Brenda. Now, moderate income housing report, Jared Hall. You have 20 minutes, Jared.
Oh, I won't need 20 minutes. I promise. I promise. It's that should do it. Sorry. We're going to take 3 of the minutes just getting this set up right.
Yeah.
That's for the extra 5 minutes in there. That's what that's for.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yes.
As you can all see, I've written a lot of staff reports in my life. I was going to say that one. And in the middle of all of those somewhere is, there we go, right there. Okay, sorry about that. I appreciate that y'all taking the time to have an update on the moderate income housing report that we did. The report, and I want to make sure you're seeing the right thing there. Okay, that works. The report is required every single year, and the state requires us to file this report. It's not voluntary in any way, and it's not new. This is something that we've been kind of updating the council on the last few years, but you should be aware. One of the things you want to be aware of is that it's not a new deal, the reporting or the moderate income housing requirements. They've been in place since I was an intern in Centerville a long time ago. That first came out, that we had to start looking at affordable housing and adding that to our general plans. So that's the first thing to be aware of. It's not new, but we're trying to keep you up to speed on the things that we're doing more often. With that said, the report has to get filed every year by December 1st, and it essentially, at this point, is doing 2 things. The first of those things is it's providing an estimate of the current city's needs for housing at certain levels of income. 80% of the AMI of the area median income, 80%, 50%, and 30% of that area median income. And right now in Salt Lake County, that's $78,828, at least for purposes of this report. And the reason I say for purposes of this report is because the state provides us the data that we have to use to plug in and give this report. So we don't generate these numbers ourselves. We're allowed to, but if we're going to use the state's numbers, they give us the numbers, and that's the area median income that they provided for Salt Lake County. And there are lots of grades of that. It's broken out by household numbers too, but that's the basic number, okay? And then we use that to kind of gauge the city's progress on providing that kind of affordable housing for those levels of income by unit numbers. And the numbers are different every year, but the trend is always the same, or it has been at least for 5, 6, 7 years now. And that trend is that for that 80%, we usually have several hundred units available, and that number goes up every year because we're building missing middle income housing, we're building townhouses, we're building 2- and 3-bedroom apartments, and so those numbers continue to go up a little bit. And then the numbers continue to slide for the 50% and the 30%, and significantly as you go down. So we're several thousand units short of what they estimate our need would be for households at the 50%, and several thousand units short for the 30% income as well. So that's kind of the trend that we keep on seeing. With that said, the other thing that it does is that it reviews the moderate income housing elements that the city's general plan has, and our responses to questions that it gives us in the report form about how we strategize about providing affordable housing and the steps that we're taking as a city to try to encourage affordable housing and to protect affordable housing where it exists, et cetera. One of the things that you need to understand about that is that we don't get to choose necessarily 2 things. We don't get to choose to have a moderate income housing element of our general plan. That's required in the state. Murray has had one for years and years. So long before the state was requiring us to be concerned about moderate income housing, it was something that the city was attempting to struggle with. Over the years, the state has mandated that all cities have a general plan that includes moderate income housing. We do that. One of the things we had to update in 2019 was to add 2 specific strategies because we're what's called a transit city by the state code, meaning that we have fixed rail, we have the front runner, and we have the tracks lines. So we have to have these strategies in our general plan. First, to reduce residential parking requirements in areas around those stations, and then to implement transit-oriented development or mixed-use zoning for properties that are around transit stations. And those are both strategies in our general plan, and to some extent, at least in both cases, we've tried to implement those strategies and continue to try to implement those strategies. So we're fully compliant that way. One of the questions that was asked in 2019 was why the transit cities were required to do that, and that's just a point of interest, because as more and more studies are done of families and households and how they afford things and how they spend their money, it's becoming more and more apparent that the affordability of housing is really a function not just of your housing and its costs, but of how much your transportation costs. And many families that the costs of owning cars, and especially multiple cars, are much higher than people really realize. And a lot of families in those lower income brackets cannot afford multiple cars or even sometimes one car. So they need access to transit. Just another thing, there's some other strategies that we have that are there's a kind of a menu you choose from under the state code and say, well, we do these things. If we're a such and such a size of city, we have to have 7 of these 10 different kind of strategies in our general plan. When they came out with that requirement, we had already embraced enough of those strategies that we had several more than we really needed. But these are just a few samples of them. We try not to exclude different housing types that are compatible from different residential zones. We want to take close looks at our support for ranges of housing types, and we always try to do that as a planning staff when we're looking at different projects, and I think you all know that. ADUs, accessory dwelling units, have become a big deal. The state is probably going to be looking at more changes to how we all deal with accessory dwelling units. You probably remember from last year's legislature that they mandated that we make changes to our ordinances to make sure that it was not difficult in different residential zones to have an accessory dwelling unit in your home. We're fully compliant with all of those codes as well.
Hey, Jared, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is that all right? Are there any of these elements that Murray has historically avoided or thought not appropriate for our city for whatever reason?
There really aren't in the state code. There are no kind of shocking strategies that you would expect, like and by shocking I mean like eliminating single family zoning, for example. There are some that kind of trend that way, like review your zoning ordinances and make modifications where necessary to allow that last green arrow, allow housing types, lot size, setbacks, and other factors that limit housing types of housing in the zone. That's sort of eliminating single family zoning light. That's considering it. That's saying take a look at where you might allow some other things to come into single family zoning. While we have that as a strategy, we've never really fully embraced that strategy. We've never really looked at single family and said, where could we stop saying you can only have single family homes in this zone? We've done zone changes in single family areas as opposed to that, and that's maybe where we go that direction.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Thank you. Let's see. Another thing I just wanted to mention real quickly is, what does all that mean when we talk about the moderate income housing report, and what does that really mean for Murray? The first thing that I think it's important for the council and everyone to understand is that the report itself does not generate a single unit of affordable housing. It doesn't do anything in and of itself. It's just an accounting. It's just us accounting to the state that we are compliant with their requirements for our general plan and how we look at moderate income housing. And we are compliant. We've filed the report. The numbers were really odd this year, and I haven't included any of those in the presentation, but you've got access to them on our website if you'd like to see them. There were some weird things going on with the tables that they gave us, and the numbers went sky high for the 80%, 80% of median income, and really low on the 50s and 30s. And if I add up all the numbers, it's more housing units than they project that we'll have in 2026 in the city. So something is wrong with the data they supplied us with. And I brought that to their attention, and they did not care. They want the reports filed, and I bring that up only not to down the state, but to say they're looking at making significant changes to the way that we supply the reporting. That's been kind of a known thing for a while. They've been saying in this legislative session, expect us to come back and ask for a different kind of reporting. They're not seeing a lot of progress in the cities from the kind of reporting that we do. There are cities that take concrete steps and have opportunities to create transit-oriented development zones like we do in Murray and really make an impact, but there are cities that don't, and they just file the report and call it good. And the state's coming after them a little bit this year and asking for different kinds of reporting, asking to report on your progress in your general plan. How much have you really implemented this specific aspect of your plan? So we'll have to see what comes out of the legislature. And next year's update might seem a little different than this one, so we'll see. And then the last thing I wanted to point out is that two more things really. We are, the weird numbers don't bother me this year either, because we're going to be, the 2020 census numbers were coming in really slow. So they kicked us back and used as a base these 2017 American Community Survey numbers that we have been using already for 2019 and 2020, and those numbers are 5-6 years old now. So that might be some of the weird numbers. But the 2020 numbers from the census are coming in good, and during this year, we're preparing as a CED department to engage a consultant and do a housing affordability study in the city. We'd like to try to see what we could really do better to better promote affordability in housing. It's a significant problem, and we want to try to tackle that better. And that study is the first step to doing that, and it'll give us better numbers for our report at the end of the year as well. And the reason we want to get into that is because I think it's important for everyone to realize that housing affordability, and I know that everybody knows this, but I'll make the point anyway, it's a regional problem. It's not like Murray has a housing affordability problem and everyone else is fine. This is a regional and even a national problem, and nothing that we do individually as a city is going to solve that problem, but we have our part to play, and it can't be solved without us either, even though it can't be solved by us alone. So I'm grateful to work for a city that has that in its mind, and clearly has for a number of years. Since long before I came, I'm looking at the general plan from before, and it was an issue as well. So I appreciate working for a city that takes it seriously. And then just to remember also that it's a challenge for everybody, but housing affordability has an impact on everything. When they talk about a cost-burdened household, if you're spending more than 30% of your income keeping a roof over your head, and your income is 50% of that median, and that median is $78,000, you don't have money in that household that's getting spent on other things that improve our economy. That's money that's not going to new shoes, and it's not going to a trip to the movies that weekend, and it's not going for better food. There are social and economic costs for everybody. So it's an issue that we really want to keep in our forefront, and that's why we want to look at that affordability study. So that is my update, except to remind you all that it is part of our general plan. It's chapter 9, if you ever want to read it. It's not a huge chapter. There's a lot of good background information in it. It is 5-6 years old at this point, that data, but we'll be updating that with the affordability study. It's chapter 9 of part 2, and it's linked on the website. If you go to the city's website and go to the CED page, it's part of the general plan, and you can actually just look at that specific section without having to find it in the general plan by going to the Modern Income Housing Report. There's a link there, okay? Any questions I can answer for the council at this point?
I really appreciate your doing this. And I know you give us, you actually give us a hard copy of this, but I felt it was important that you also interpret it for us, and because I think it's a very important part of what we do. So thank you.
Thanks. I appreciate it. I talk about affordability housing all day. I was yelling at Zach about it just as I was leaving because he pointed me to some Deseret News article that was ridiculous about it, or opinion piece, not an article. But so anyway, I appreciate it. Yep.
Yes, we do too. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, boy, good job. You were under your
I'm
20
under time.
minutes.
Let the record
Whoa.
show. But I did actually just turn off your system for anybody else too. So they'll have to find their way through it.
Okay, now we're going to do the interlocal board and committee reports, which are 5 minutes each unless indicated. So we'll start with Utah Association of Municipal Power Systems, UAMPS, and the IPA, Blaine Hackey, who has 10 minutes. Welcome, Blaine.
Take every second I get. All right. First of all, let me thank you for the opportunity to be here and congratulate the mayor and Pam and Diane for being reelected and elected. It's a big day for you and your families, and There was a big crowd in the lobby today. I don't know if you sensed that in here, but there was twice as many people out there listening in. So I want to, first of all, not only congratulate you, but tell you that the Power Department supports the council, and I know you support us. We have good reliability, we have good rates, and that's our commitment to make the city look good. When we look good, you look good, and we as a region and city look good. I want to thank the council also and the mayor for letting me be on the 2 boards this next year of 2022 that I sit on, that being the UAMPS board and the IPA board. These are a little bit time consuming at times. They go through streaks. Sometimes I've spent a lot of time on them, going to meetings and Zooming and that type of thing. And then other times there's not a lot going on. Right now the IPA board is taking a lot of my time because of some of the legislation that's happening up on the Hill, and I'll get into that in just a second. Whereas the UAMPS board is not taking as much as my time, but in 6 months that will swing the other way. For the sake of review, let me talk a little bit about the UAMPS board. And I hope it's not too much of a review, but to Pam especially, maybe this will be a little bit of a, I'm not tutoring, I don't intend to tutor you or talk down to you, but the UAMPS group is a group of about 40 cities that have combined, not only in the Utah state, but other states, and we combine our power through different projects, and we buy and sell power between the cities. And we're able to enter into projects with these cities because sometimes when you build a big power plant, you need more than one city to build it. You need numerous cities so you can bring lots of revenue and lots of bonding. We meet at least once a month up at the Salt Lake Hardware Building in downtown Salt Lake City. The largest members of UAMPS are St. George and Idaho Falls. We used to be number 3. We're number 5 now as far as number of meters in the UAMPS. Number 3 is now Lehigh. They've passed us. And with their growth, let them go. And Jared could probably say, well, let them go. Jared's gone, but Logan and Murray are about the same size. So we're tied for 4th or 5th biggest, largest. Through the UAMPS group, we have looked into different projects, and that's the beauty of the UAMPS groups. We can look into large-scale solar or small-scale solar or wind. The nuclear project we looked at, natural gas plants, or whatever the case may be. We have entered into agreement with large-scale solar, as you know, down in the Four Corners area called Red Mesa. It's in the Navajo Nation area. That plant is being built right now. It'll be about 5% of our energy once it's built in late 2022. That's just an example of a project that UAMPS as a group would do. Murray by itself probably couldn't enter into something like that. So that's the value of being in a committee and being in a group like that. About 5% of our needs will be used or filled by being in the solar project. We're also investigating another project down in the Four Corners area on the New Mexico side. The San Juan coal-fired plant, which we have small ownership in, is going to be, I guess you could say, demolished, or is end of its contracts will expire in the first part of 2022, which is right away. And one option is to just demolish it, as many coal-fired plants are doing right now. Well, there's a group that's called Enchant that has come onto the scene. Enchant wants to buy the older coal-fired plant, continue to operate it, but in order to do that, they have to follow environmental rules. And to do that, they've have an option out there that they can, what they call, sequester or capture the carbon emissions coming out of the stacks, and then they pipe it underground or pipe it away from the environment. And they think they can do that fairly cheaply. And so we're looking into that in a small scale, another 5 megawatts, which is about 5% of our needs. If they can come across and do that at a decent price, we're going to have them continue to do the plant. It'll be environmentally clean, but it's a big situation. Rosalba.
Thank you. Question, would we buy into that, kind of like what we did with nuclear, and say, hey, we were the first in the UAMPS group to be in it? Or
No, this would be a contract. They have to give the product to us for us to pay for it.
okay.
It's a contract rather than an ownership.
Oh,
That's
okay.
that's a huge key. That's a good point.
Just
we
wanted
would-
to make sure and
Yeah.
clarify.
Yeah, right now the pricing is looking real good. I can't say anything on camera what the pricing is, but it would be one of our cheaper resources if we could buy into that or contract into that. I would like to think it's a no harm, no foul type of project where if they can't provide the kilowatt hour in the lines, we don't have to continue to pay for fixed costs. And that's the concern about the nuclear. I know you are talking about Rosalba. That is a big concern. So we're cautiously optimistic that might work out. It might work out, it might not, who knows?
Is that with UAMPS or IPA?
That'd be UAMPS.
UAMPS,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Just wanted to make sure.
Also in December, there was a new executive board named of the UAMPS group. The executive board consists of a chairman of the board, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer. The new chair was named Les Williams, and some of you know Les Williams from Beaver City. I know you do, Brett. White-haired gentleman. He's very gregarious, and he's the new chair of the board for UAMPS Group. Vice chair is Rick Hansen from Washington City. The secretary is Shane Ward from Mount Pleasant, and Dwight Day from Oak City is the treasurer. And they serve basically a 3-year term, and they'll stagger that. Years ago, I thought maybe I'd run for the UAMPS board, but I soon realized that there is a little bit of a conflict of interest between being on the executive board for IPA and the executive board for UAMPS. Sometimes there is an issue between which resource would we buy. And I've opted to go the IPA route, even though, well, I've opted to go the IPA route. So that's my report on the UAMPS group. We're looking at 2 different projects. The IPA group is a group of 23 Utah cities, 6 California cities, 6 co-ops. And this is the Delta Utah coal-fired plant. Right now, we're undergoing a fuel change from coal to natural gas and eventually to hydrogen. This metamorphosis is going on right now as we speak. Already hundreds of millions of dollars have been spent out there by the California entities who are pushing this fuel change. We're not paying for any of the upgrades. The only way we would pay for the upgrades is at some point in time in the next 5 decades, if we ever called back or used the power from that plant, then we would, part of that cost is the bonding and the mortgage on that plant. So once again, California is paying for all of this. It's them that's pushing the project. It's coming under some controversy right now. I might mention this is a $2.5 billion project. Eventually, it'll be 100% hydrogen, but right now, in the first part of 2025, they're going to completely walk away from the coal plant and have a natural gas plant that's 70% natural gas with a 30% hydrogen mix. They're actually going to make hydrogen on the site, mix it with the fuels, and this is the way it is sold to the California market. They're much more environmentally minded, I guess you could say, than some of the region states. And this is the way the California entities are pursuing this. So with that, I come to the board with just a couple more minutes, but I need to elicit the help of the City Council in the next couple months. And the reason being is the general session of the Utah State Legislature is starting up in the next couple weeks. As you remember, I think I mentioned in my last report or sometime in the most recent history, the Governor Cox called a special session. I don't even have dentures. Last November. And in this legislation, there was a quasi debate about the IPA project. And we were concerned about the way the legislation was handled. It was done in secrecy. It was done at a time when most people were concerned about the mask mandate that was debated. They also worried about the congressional gerrymandering. I don't know if that's the right word, but that was happening at the time. And so this IPA issue was kind of brushed under the carpet. But the legislation that passed in the special session is kind of hamstringing the project right now. We're ready to go on hundreds of millions of dollars of bonding to pursue this hydrogen/natural gas plant. And because of what the state legislature did in November, Wall Street has taken a backdoor or back street approach on this, saying, we're not sure if we want to give the hundreds of millions of dollars to this Utah entity. So they're waiting to see what the session in the next 3 months does. This is putting a delay on the project. And we don't know what the legislation in the next couple of months is going to happen. In fact, they've told us, IPA, that we are going to do some legislation. We're not going to tell you right now what it's going to be. What we think it might be, it might hamstring us a little bit more on some of the things we can fast act on for financing. We were really worried about the bill that was passed last November. For one thing, the legislature gave us no notice, and they gave us 3 one-minute responses to the bill before it went to the vote on the houses. It was 3 minutes total, and we were a little bit worried about that. In fact, we are still worried about that. In fact, I'm Zooming about every couple of days trying to strategize how we're going to deal with this. So what I'm getting to is I've got some packets, and I think if you went to the IPA in December, the annual meeting, there were some envelopes that were given out to each of you, and I have got some extras. Jennifer, I can get them to you. You can distribute them. In these packets are 7 flashcards, you might say. It's an IPA overview. We've prepared these for people like the council and the mayors of our group, and we're trying to get the word out that IPA is just general, is a super economic power in central Utah. For example, the IPA group has given $500 million to Millard County alone since 1985, over $6 million to Utah County alone in ad valorem taxes. And not only do we have 400 full-time employees down at the Delta plant, but it's a huge economic turn. So what I'd like you to do, if you have time, it's an easy read. I'll give these envelopes to you with these 6 things. It talks about IPA coal issues, the water issues, the Senate Bill 2002 issue. And so it kind of gives you an update of where we are standing right now. And the hopes is that I can maybe prepare you a little bit for some help I might need with some phone calls perhaps in February or first part of March or whatever. I will say what I'm going to probably ask you and the mayor to do, council, is to maybe, if we need to put some pressure on some of our senators and representatives from our area, and maybe we can at least inform them of what's happening and let them make a good informed vote. I'm not trying to really persuade them, but just show them we didn't get the word out in November what really was happening. We wanted just our forum in front of a microphone, and we never got it. I will say that in November, when this legislation was pushed through, that I did contact the senators and the representatives from Murray that represent us, and I got a huge positive response to the IPA. They voted against the Senate Bill 2002, not so much because of what the issues were, but it was just pushed through too fast, and we wanted our day in the sun as far as the IPA group. So we just want it to be debated out in the open, and we can make it known that IPA is a good organization. It's huge impact. We have, I'm chairman of the board of the IPA group. I'm a little bit biased on that, but we are going to call back IPA this next summer. This is the first time we've done that since 2012, I believe. 2 more minutes. The way the IPA contract works is that if you, we can call back power if we want to. We haven't done it for 8 years. This year, we're going to call it back. We want some of the power back that we've had entitlement to, and this year we're going to call it back. So it's serving a purpose. The plant's serving a purpose, and we want IPA to continue. And I guess that's all I have. So Jennifer, I'll get you those envelopes if you can distribute those. Yeah.
Thank you, Blaine.
Okay, you're welcome.
And I just think what was done was really unfair. And any way we can help, I'm sure we'll do that.
Thank you.
So,
Our Murray reps really pulled through for us.
yeah.
I can give you names after, but I'll tell you who really.
Okay.
I want to just follow up with that. Now that we have new members on our council and also with Brett being the mayor, that we continue to have these conversations and that we work in tandem so that way we can go ahead and push that support for you in the IPA.
I appreciate it. I know other cities are rallying right now. Logan has a big push, and as well as Bountiful. And if I can add Murray to that, help. But I want to inform you so you can make your own decision. But I think.
Yes. And we really appreciate that, and we really need that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's where we get the value, is having those conversations.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yep.
Thanks.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Russ. I'm not hurrying you, but you have 5 minutes. By the way, it's good to see you. Haven't seen you for a while.
It's been a while, guys, especially face to face. I think last
Yeah.
time was a Zoom, and I forgot to turn on my video, so you didn't see me then either. But No, congratulations on your guys' election. You guys, it'll be good. It'll be great to work together. So,
Yeah.
not sure, Pam, if you are aware what Transjordan is, or the organization, 7 cities that own it. So, just real quick, some of the things that are going on there. We had a compactor that caught fire. I think it was lightning is what they're thinking it was. And it was a total loss. But they actually got the value of about half-life on it. And that's about where it was at. So they got $560,000 back from insurance for that. And they ordered a new one. I guess it was in July, and they're going to receive that this month, I guess. So, so that's good. I mean, them compactors are $1.2 million, and they run 3 a day, all day long. So, the scale house, the inbound scale went out. It was an RFP that was out there, so it was already, the bid was almost done. So it will actually be back online next Tuesday, which is a good thing because then you'd be waiting longer with only the one scale. So the transfer station, it's at 30% design now. So, and it's still, we're looking at 2024 to actually open. Not sure what month, but that's what they're planning for. So a few things to work out. There's some road issues and some combined construction work with, I think it was Green Hall is a property owner on the backside, the east side of that, where it's going to be located at. So, but he's going to pay half of that roadway. So it's good. It's be a good. I don't know if you guys have heard of Zipline. They fly medicine to places. So they came in and we entered into an agreement with them. It was earlier this year. So they have these little planes, got a launch pad. It's not a big place, but it's on an area that's the landfill's done with. We're not digging in it anymore. So, and then they're going to be paying us like $85,000 a year just to lease this little piece of ground. But they're little planes. They fly. They flip them in the air. They can fly 50 miles, I think is what it is, and back. But they are dropping like 4 pounds of medicine to someone that needs it in a hurry or something. So
it's not, there's not anyone in it.
no, they're
It's
only like
just
this
the-
big.
Ah,
So they got a
oh,
little,
kind of
and they
like a
drop them with a
drone.
parachute, or you can see it online. It's kind of interesting, but it's kind of neat.
Yeah.
So the PCC, which is the Public Convenience Center, it was falling off on one end. So we're expanding that, and it's under construction right now. And as far as budget goes, over the last year, usually every meeting, there's issues with employees, not attaining employees, not retaining them. So recruitment they're trying to do, a $250 bonus, hiring bonus, didn't work. And so their wages were really low. So we adjusted them wages last board meeting. So that'll be effective this month. So like normally they have 14 part-time employees to clean up garbage on the roadways. And usually there's 4 that are watching where people are dumping down in the pit. Or when you pull into the PCC, they're kind of guiding you where to go. So they couldn't even hire them right now, even with temps. It was rough. So when we looked at it, the whole board decided to raise them up. They're still lower than our wages. And they kind of followed our HR, and because that's where they used to have our meetings was Murray City kind of controlled that. I don't know if you guys remember, that was a while ago, long time ago, but they kind of followed that map, and it was time to make some adjustments. So sounds like they might be hiring a guy this week. So, but if you guys ever want to have Jaron come down, I'll need probably 30 minutes for him to talk and explain some things. But he's got a presentation he likes to give. They're not doing the breakfast this year due to COVID and stuff. So this would be an opportunity if you guys want to do it in the next months to come. He's offering it up.
Yeah.
If you guys want to see it, he'll come and talk to you.
I think that'd be great. Would you schedule it with Jennifer? I think.
Sure. Yep. Let me
I
talk with
think
him
that
and
would
see
be
what's
really
available.
helpful.
So, any questions? Good. Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Russ.
Russ.
Okay, Brenda. You have
Okay.
10 minutes.
I have 10 minutes. So I'm going to report on the Utopia and the UIA board since I was alternate to the Utopia one. And the mayor has not decided who's going to be on there for the next year. So the Utopia board just authorized a contract between Bozeman Fiber and Utopia to provide services to Bozeman Fiber. What that means is they provide engineering, expertise, help with, they will provide the NOC services, which I think is where all of their stuff feeds into. And, but Bozeman Fiber will have all of the techs and everybody in Bozeman to install and do a fiber system. So what that means for Utopia is they get more revenue. They don't need any more people. And it's a really good contract and a way to bring in revenue without taking any risk. So they have also done this with Idaho Falls, and they think that when both of these units are built out, they'll be making $100,000 a month from helping those two, or from the contract from those two things. For UIA, in the December meeting, they approved, we approved the parameters for 3 bonds, 2 of which, one was for Santa Clara. UIA has entered in a contract to build a fiber network in Santa Clara. Santa Clara will backstop the bond for $7.8 million. So if they don't get a high enough take rate, Santa Clara will have to pay the bond payments. And they've done the same thing for $7.2 million for Cedar Hills. Cedar Hills was kind of a no-brainer because on the north part of Cedar Hills is Pleasant Grove, which they have a contract with, and the city boundaries kind of intermesh. It's not a straight line. And so they were going to have to put fiber over it anyway. So if they get Cedar Hills, it can just be one contiguous fiber thing. Why we like this is once these get online, any extra revenue can go to paying for new builds. They can help pay down the UIA Utopia debts. Revenue is revenue. I would prefer if we were one of those cities and I wasn't paying $1.8 million of their debt, but that was then, and there's nothing we can do about it now. The system now is month over month revenue is about $40,000. So every month they're getting an additional $40,000 in revenue. They're just about to reach $3 million a month in revenues through the UIA, through all of the different areas. Murray's take rate right now is about 34%. It's gone down because they have opened more areas. They are intending by June 30th, they tell me that all of Murray will be built out, except for when you open a new subdivision, then it won't be built out. It's one of those things that's continual. So they did finish Midvale. Midvale's take rate right now is very low because they opened the whole city, and I'm sure it will climb. The best city I saw was Morgan. It has a 50% take rate, so half of their people. In Linden, they like it. They're about 50 to 60% take rate. So in the right places, it can be really good. So that's about it. They're doing really well. I think in their next budget, they will, their goal is to keep our loan payment from having to go up. So at least it will stay static for a while. That's their goal for the next budget cycle. And that's it. You have any questions?
That's awesome. I finally got Utopia. I can't believe it. I know. Yoo-hoo. Yes, finally.
Yeah, the neighborhoods, they're moving. I've seen their trucks out here.
Yeah, they were in my neighborhood, but between these last 2 meetings.
Yeah, so they're slowly getting it, and I think they're planning on, once they've got the whole thing built out, they'll contact the mayor's office and we'll do some kind of big announcement, because 10 gig is available for those people who want it.
Yeah.
And want to pay for it. So,
Yeah.
my little 250 is fast enough for my house,
Yeah.
but
That's what we got. And it's great.
Yeah.
I mean, we have had
and
no
it's
problems. so-
almost always on. I've never had a problem.
I want to ask, do you like it?
Yes.
Ta-
Are you
I
kidding?
I have it.
And
Are we talking about Utopia?
Yeah.
yeah,
You
Utopia.
guys never
We-
had it? over
Brenda
No.
Brenda
Oh,
chastised
get
me
it.
when I wouldn't get it
Just
because
wait.
I just got it.
Your area of the city got built out one
You
of the
got
first
first.
areas.
Got a fancy district. Yeah.
So, and it just depends on which neighborhood you're in and which area of the city you're in. Whether
It's
you've
great
had
though.
it.
I'll tell you, we love it.
Yeah, we have
But
had
by
we've had
June-
it for I don't know how many years, but
By June,
Oh,
everybody
yeah.
will have access to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank
It's true.
goodness.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Brenda. Now we are at D, which is VEC, Valley Emergency Communications Center, and Metro Fire. Doug Hill, you have 10 minutes.
Thank you. VEC is one of 2 911 answering centers in Salt Lake County. It's comprised of all of the cities with the exception of Salt Lake City and Sandy City. And those two have their own 911 call center. VEC is also the largest call center by volume in the state of Utah. In 2020, and I've talked about this in the past, the state did an audit of VEC and found that there were some deficiencies in call answering times. The legislature adopted a standard back in 2020 that said that they want all 911 emergency call centers to answer 90% of all calls within 15 seconds and 95% of all calls within 20 seconds. And VEC was one of the few centers in the state that was not able to meet those standards. And so the legislature has been putting a lot of pressure on VEC and the board of trustees, of which I represent the city, on that board to figure out ways how we can decrease those call answering times. With a lot of effort over the last 2 years, VEC in November finally reached the standard for answering. They answered 91.08% of all calls within 15 seconds, which exceeded that 90% requirement. So finally, VEC is now reaching these standards and, of course, providing these better services to the citizens that are using 911. But of course, that did not come without a cost. And so this is kind of a heads up, if you will, that at our next budget, the 2023 budget that you will be working on in the springtime, you will see likely significant increase in costs associated with our assessment to VEC for both police and fire. And that is because, number one, there had to be a new software system that was purchased that was the same as Salt Lake City and Sandy's system, so that we're all on the same software program. A significant cost associated with that. A new phone system was required to be purchased, which would help reduce the waiting time. There had to be significant increases in wage adjustments, as well as increasing costs to hire more employees to be able to meet those call answering times. And also, as was just previously mentioned by Russ, same problem, staffing shortages and having to pay more money in order to get people to work is just the reality, I think, for a lot of places right now. And so those costs mostly have been able to be absorbed in the current budget, but going forward in the next budget year for VEC, I think everybody's anticipating an assessment increase to us. On top of that, the state of Utah is implementing a new radio system for all of these people that go up in the mountains, search and rescue people. That the current radio system doesn't allow some of these remote areas to be able to interface with the 911 system. And so the state is requiring all of the call centers to implement a new radio system for police and fire that will reach these remote areas. And that will require VEC to have to make significant upgrades to their facility to put in all the necessary cabling and consoles into the to make it work. And so as a result of that, they're taking out a bond of about $5.4 million, which will help to make these new improvements for the facility and refund some existing bonds that they have. And they'll be issuing those bonds here probably in the first quarter of this year. But guess who gets to pay those bonds? The cities that are members of that. So that will also, those bonding, new bonding costs are also going to go, will impact Murray City's budget and our assessment.
Does the state, sorry, Doug, does the state provide any funding at all? They just say, we're making the change and that's it?
Yeah, they're providing funding for all of the radio systems, but they're not providing any funding for the facilities to be able to to upgrade their facilities to do whatever is needed to make it work.
Okay, thank you.
The University of Utah recently just joined VEC, so not only are all of the cities on the same system, but now the University of Utah just recently joined, and the Utah Highway Patrol is also planning to join here in the next few months. And then I just want to mention that John Harris, our fire chief, had served this past year as the fire operations chair, and was just recently, his term was just recently up on that. And now Craig Burnett, our police chief, is currently serving as the police operations chair. So we've got some good people there looking out after Murray City. So that's all I have to report on, Beck. Do you have any questions?
Any questions?
I do. How many members cities do we have again? And who is it?
I'd have to sit and think to count it, but it's everybody in Salt Lake County, all the cities in Salt Lake County except Salt Lake City and Sandy.
Oh, interesting. And I know before, because VEC is what we get our reporting system to us directly, correct? Our weekly email. Is that through VEC? Does it come through VEC? Do you know? No? Is that something else? Yeah.
Yeah, the crime
I thought
report
it
that
came
you get
from
every
VEC.
week from Sydney is just the Murray City calls, the Murray City Police calls. Those are generated, most of those calls are generated by VEC, by people calling 911. And then what VEC does is they will then dispatch our police officers to those crimes. And so that's the report that you're seeing.
Yeah, so that it changed. Did it change because of VEC? Or or is it a combination of,
Yeah, it did change because of VEC. So the software system that VEC purchased and Salt Lake City purchased, or they were using at the time, required us then to change our record management system, which is what the police department was using. And so they had to switch from what we used to use, which was Spillman, to what is now being used, which is Versaterm, and that changed all of the reporting stuff that we get now.
I was just curious how it played in tandem with VEC, and so yeah. I miss those old reports, I will say, Chief. They were
You too.
Yeah, they were a little bit more. Well, I would like a Ford back.
Yes, me too. I agree.
So I know this is kind of off topic, and if you give me 1 minute, Diane, I can talk a little bit about those reports, because I think it's important for the council to understand what's on those reports. And I don't know that we've ever talked about those.
No,
but
we haven't.
the report that you have, number one, the one report that you get, the one spreadsheet you get is a report of what I understand is federally required reporting categories. So you'll see that that a lot of the crime in the city is grouped into categories like theft, robberies, rape, cars, stolen cars, things like that, right? And those are what are called reportable. And usually that number is very low. I mean, like 200 to 250 a week of reportable cases. The other chart that we have that Sydney sends out is all calls, and it usually hovers up around the 850 to 900 calls per week. And so to me, that is a real significant storyteller of how busy our police department is, because they're dealing with generally around 900 calls that come into their officers every week and have to deal with all those calls.
Yeah, but I mean, as council members, it was really helpful, the last reports that we had that provided addresses, and
Right.
so we had some idea of what kind of issues were in different areas of our districts. So
Right.
if there's any way we could get those back, I think they were really helpful. I don't know if, anyway.
Well, it's something that we're working on. By them changing the system, we had to change how we got reports and the reports we were able to get out. So we have software we're working on. Hopefully we can change some of the reporting and the statistics and get you some of the same type of reports that you had before. It's just that system's gone, and now we're having to build a new system.
Thank you.
The last West Valley and South Salt Lake went over to this new system the 1st of January. So now all of Beck and all of Salt Lake County actually is all on this Versaterm. So I think we'll see some things changing. We'll be able to start getting some help and figuring out how to get some of these reports. We're kind of building them as we go right now.
Great. Thank you. I don't think we were aware of
Yeah, I don't think we were aware, and it just
apply the
changed.
changes. Just all of a sudden, it
So
was.
that's why I asked, because I'm like, was it because of VAC? How did this happen? Please. So
Yeah,
thank you, Doug. Thank you,
Yeah,
Chief,
we
as
can
well.
blame Beck for that.
All right, I'm going to blame VAC.
Okay.
And my last question, do you know how much of a percentage we'll see as an increase in the budget?
I don't yet. No, it's still too early. We haven't started looking at those numbers yet.
But we'll know by the end of the first quarter, maybe.
We will know by March when the mayor submits the budget to the council. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
And then Metro Fire, again, just as a background, Metro Fire is a interlocal board that consists of all cities that have fire departments that are not part of the UFA, Unified Fire Department, which is, there are some cities that have contract with UFA or served by UFA. So the reason that interlocal board was started years ago was to help cities like Murray and Sandy and South Jordan and West Valley City to share in services, so that we all don't have to have, for example, dogs that can go do fire investigation, or that we don't all have swift water rescue programs to rescue people from the Jordan River, or we all don't have to have hazmat programs to go out and clean spills on the freeway and things like that. We can kind of share those services with each other. And there really isn't anything that I have to report on that's recent. So that would be my report.
Great. Thanks, Doug.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. We're running kind of late. I tried. If it's okay with the council, I think we should reconvene at about 6:40. Does that work?
Yes.
Are you guys okay with that? Okay,
perfect.
we'll
Thank you.
reconvene at 6:40. Thank you. We are adjourned. Okay, it is now 6:40 and time for the Murray City Municipal Council meeting for January 4th, 2022. All council members are present except for District 5, and that will be, hopefully, that seat will be filled within the next month. Oh, he'll join us when he's able. The mayor is present, and so we'll get started. Okay, the first bit of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I've asked Cindy Hales, our new First Lady of Murray, to conduct it. Thank you, Cindy. Okay, we don't have any approval of minutes, and no special recognition is scheduled at this time. This is now the time for citizen comments. If you have a comment, it will be limited to 3 minutes. Please step to the microphone, state your name and city of residence, and fill out the required form that Jennifer has at her desk. We have 2 public hearings, so this is not the time for the district boundaries discussion. So any citizen comments at this time? Okay. Hearing none, we'll continue to the consent agenda. There is none scheduled. Public hearings. The staff-sponsored presentations and public comment will be given prior to council action on the following matters. The first is to consider an ordinance adjusting Murray City Municipal Council district boundaries. And Brooke Smith is presenting. Brooke.
Hi, thank you for your time today. Appreciate having the opportunity to present before you, Council and Mayor Hells. Matter of introductions, my name is Brooke Smith. I'm the city recorder. And in the audience, we have Scott Burrell, who is our GIS supervisor, who worked on a lot of these maps that you'll be seeing tonight. Just as a brief housekeeping, all the maps that are being presented are on our city website, murray.utah.gov. If you do the search engine and click in redistricting, those maps will be pop up for you. So if one of the maps does pass tonight, if you're curious about what districts you are in, you can check that map out. And once it's finalized, it will go to the city council's webpage to be hosted there. So with that, just a quick reminder, I did present the proposals to Murray City Council with our recommended changes for the city council and school district on December 7th during the committee of the whole meeting. The redistricting is done over time because populations around the city become unequal. Redistricting is an opportunity for us to even things out every 10 years. Due to COVID-19, the census data in 2022 was released and signed into law 6 months later than it typically is. It was signed in November 12th. And because of the upcoming school board elections, they have 3 school boards that are up for re-election or election in District 2, 3, and 4. And with the county deadlines to redo their county precincts, we do have to finalize a map tonight so they can do their things moving forward. Unfortunately, it doesn't leave us a lot of time, but we are trying to do the best we can to accommodate other districts that are coming down the pipeline. When we met on December 7th, I presented one map and asked for feedback from the council members. It was requested to rework an area in the central north part of the city, and we were happy to do that and accommodate that request and go back to the drawing boards and find a solution that we think will meet the needs of the city council members and the city needs. while staying within Utah code. Tonight, I'm presenting both maps to you and the public for review, and will ask the council to recommend one of those maps to be approved and moving forward. So just as a quick reminder, this is the current city council district boundaries. It's the 2020 or 2012 council district with the 2020 population totals. Part of our goal with redistricting was to try to even out those areas and create a map that was a little bit more succinct and equal boundaries and make it look a little bit cleaner. This was our first proposal that you saw on December 7th. And because Council District 1 had the most population, we had to remove some of the area in that district and then redistribute it into the other 4 areas. So we did that. And then with that, the population totals for Proposal 1, we have a range of a 4% deviation. So our target population total is 10,127. And we have a maximum range of 9,722 to 10,523. And you can see here the population totals of where each district will land in population with proposal number 1. Is there any questions? Okay, great. So the second proposal we did made a few adjustments. We didn't want to make major adjustments to all the city council member districts. So we kept council district 2, 4, and 5 the same. And we swapped out lands in council 1 and 3. So you can see here, we felt like the border for State Street was the cleanest refix for this proposal. So everything east of State Street would go to Council District 3. And unfortunately, this land right here, we couldn't fit in the we needed more population for District 3, so we weren't able to accommodate it all the way down. But we felt like Vine Street and Poplar, and I believe it's Cottonwood, was a natural boundary to make that cutoff. And then we swapped this land over here with Council District 1. There was a slight population change. I believe Council District 1 would receive 48 more people in the original proposal, and then Council District 3 would lose 48 people with this land swap and population swap. So you can see here our population totals. They still are very close in percent, like within the range and percentages. Again, with the Council District 3 would lose 48 people, and Council District 1 would gain 48 people. With that, do you have any questions with either proposal?
Questions for Brooke? No questions?
Okay.
Okay.
With that, I'd ask the council to discuss and open it up to public hearing, and then make a recommendation for which map would move forward tonight.
Thank you, Brooke. At this time, I will open the public hearing for public comment. And just to be reminded that comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Step to the microphone, state your name and city of residence, and fill out the required form. Okay. I will now close the public hearing and send it to the council for a discussion or a motion.
I'd motion to adopt the ordinance adjusting Murray City Municipal Council district boundaries using option number 1.
Okay. Okay. So option number 1 would keep it the same.
It would be the first proposal.
The first proposal.
That's
and
option number 1. Version 2 is this proposal.
Okay. So if we want number 2, so since we do have to come up with either 1 or 2,
You don't have a second that I've heard, so if you don't have a second, then that motion dies.
okay. Okay.
Okay, I will make a motion that we adopt version 2, draft number 2 of the new boundaries. Sorry, let me go ahead and read this officially so it can be in the record. I want to consider an ordinance adjusting Murray City Municipal Council District boundaries for option number 2, version 2.
Okay. Got it. Do we have a second?
I just want to say I thought the initial map was great, but I appreciated the change. I think it does make sense for District 1 to stay below State Street demographic wise, and I think the population makes sense distribution wise, so I will second Councilmember Dominguez's motion.
Great. I would just like to say also that I like the second one. It seems cleaner, and so thank you very much for making those. I think that's good. Brooke, would you take the roll?
Ms. Martinez,
Aye.
Ms. Cotter,
Aye.
Ms. Dominguez,
Aye.
Ms. Turner.
Aye. Again, thank you, Brooke.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, our second public hearing is to consider an ordinance adjusting Murray School Board District boundaries. Brooke, presenting.
Welcome again. So just as a quick reminder, we did speak to Superintendent Jennifer Covington and Richard Reese, who's this Murray City School Business Administrator. Richard was with us on December 7th and recommended the changes, and I've since spoken with Jennifer and Richard and haven't received any feedback changing the recommended maps. So tonight I will only be presenting one map moving forward. And this map was submitted to their boards, and we didn't receive any feedback from them as well. So just as a quick reminder, this is the current boundaries for the Murray School Board, and our recommended changes cleaned up a couple areas and extended council district or precinct 4 and then precinct 5 to go all the way down to our borders. And that is our recommended changes. Oh, with a quick comment, precinct 1 did have the greatest population growth, so we did have to cut the area and then redistribute the population. But this area we did have to leave in because Glo Merrill, who is the current representative, does live in that neighborhood. So we left that in there to move forward. So with that, I would turn the time back over to the council to discuss and open it up for public comment.
Thank you, Brooke. Okay, I will now open this for public comment. State your name. You probably know the drill by now.
Hi, I'm Clark Bullen. I live in District 3.
Oh,
there's no mic. I can be really loud.
We'll give it to you.
Yes, we need to have the mic. We're recording.
You just wanted to take away one of my minutes, Brett. I'm Clark Bullen, and I live in District 3. Is it on? Okay. And so I worked with Brooke during the election. I just want to say Brooke and the recorder's office is awesome. They do great work. She's a joy to work with, and this is great work. These maps are a great job. And I understand that the timeline was compressed due to COVID and the legislature had delays. And I mean, this was a really quick turnaround, so impressive work by GIS as well. But in general, it kind of speaks to a recommendation I would have for the city of coming up with a process that engages citizens early on in whatever discussion is happening. Something such as boundaries and where people vote and who they vote for and how their representation works would be a prime example, I think, of somewhere that citizens could have given feedback and could have engaged on if the timeline would have allowed. At this point, 3 minutes when we have to approve one of these maps today, there's not a lot of wiggle room for what citizens could suggest. But if the city adopted a process that engaged citizen feedback on the onset, before a lot of staff work has been done. A lot of issues that come forward before the council has been hours and hours, like just months and months of staff work. And to change anything at the very final stages of the decision making, it's as a citizen, it feels like almost a moot point to make a comment when it seems like the decision's all but been made at that point and the work's already been done. It'd be nice to be included and invited in at the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you, Clark. Other comments? Okay. We'll close this portion of our public hearing and send it to the council for discussion and a motion.
I would like to make a motion. Sorry. Like, should I ask my question now or after? But I'll ask it after. I would like to make a motion to consider that an ordinance adjusting the Murray School Board district boundaries.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Is there a discussion on the motion?
No.
Okay. Brooke, would you call the roll?
Ms. Martinez?
Aye.
Ms. Cotter?
Aye.
Ms. Dominguez?
Aye.
Ms. Turner?
Aye. Thank you, Brooke. Okay, that concludes our public hearings. And we'll go on to the business items. The first is the election of City Council Chair and Vice Chair for the calendar year of 2022. Okay, so I guess I get to do this. I am the presiding officer. Nominations are now in order for Chair of the Murray City Council for calendar year 2022, and they do not require a second. So, do we have nominations for a chair?
I would like to nominate Kat Martinez for chair.
Okay. Kat Martinez has been nominated. Are there further nominations for the office of council chair? Okay, I will close the nominations. Brooke, would you call the roll?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, Brooke. All right, nominations are now in order for the office of council vice chair.
I would nominate Diane Turner for council vice chair.
Okay. Diane Turner has been nominated. Are there further nominations for the office of council vice chair? Okay. Brooke, would you call the roll?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, Brooke. All right, now nominations are in order for Budget and Finance Committee officers for the calendar year 2022. Do we have a nomination for Budget and Finance Committee officer?
I'll nominate Rosalba Dominguez for budget chair.
Thank you.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none. Okay, would you call the roll, Brooke?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, Brooke. Okay, nominations are now in order for Budget and Finance Committee Vice Chair.
I would like to nominate Pam Cotter to be to serve as the budget vice chair. Sorry.
Great. Okay. Pam Cotter has been nominated as Budget and Finance Committee Vice Chair. Are there any other nominations? Okay. Thank you.
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. Okay. All right, that takes care of the elections. Now we are at consider a resolution approving the city council's appointment of representatives to boards and committees. Okay, so since you are now the chair of the council, Kat, would you like to conduct this?
Sure. Absolutely. So my understanding is for this one, we need to take this back to committee of the whole
Yes,
because we
because
need
of our rules.
because of our rules, and we need to come back then after committee of the whole with a resolution in order
Yes.
to fill these positions. So we will be, are we tabling it? Moving on? Do we have an official word we need to use, GL? Schedule it. Amazing. I would like to schedule it for the next committee of the whole. I just needed a verb. Thank you. Amazing. And then Dan, do you want to do number 4, or do you want me to continue forward?
Okay, for number 3, we need to schedule when we're going to reconsider this and for the committee of the whole, Jennifer. On the 18th? Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. All right, then we will be within our what's the term I'm looking for?
Council rules, bylaws,
Council rules.
Robert's
Robert's
rules.
rules. All those things.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Now we will consider number 4, which is an order to convene a special meeting of the Murray City Municipal Council to appoint an interim city council member for Council District 5 to serve until January 2nd, 2024. GL.
Thanks. This is in some ways a matter of housekeeping. As you know, with the vacation of District 5 seat by Brett becoming mayor, we need to fill that position. And you'll recall that at the beginning of each year, we send out a notice of the meetings for the year. This one would not be on that notice, so that's why it's a special meeting. And the special meeting is planned for February 1st, I believe it is, to come back and to have those people who are interested in filling this seat be interviewed and then an appointment be made that night. And so our ordinance that talks about special meetings requires that an order be signed, whether it be by the chair, majority of the council members, or by the mayor. And in this case, it seemed, well, the other requirement is if a council member is not signed on to that, then we have to deliver to your home a notice of the meeting. So I thought it'd be just easiest to have everybody sign off on this order convening the meeting for February 1st. That's what you have in your packet. So
Okay.
That's what this is.
Okay. Do we need a motion?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Any questions for GL? If not, I would appreciate a motion.
All right. I will make a motion to consider an order to convene a special meeting of Murray City Municipal Code to appoint an interim city council member for Council District 5 to serve until January 2nd, 2024. And that meeting will be held on February 1st, correct? At 5 o'clock. All right.
Okay, do we have a second?
I second it.
Is there any further discussion on the motion? All right, Brooke, would you call the roll?
Aye.
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 Aye. All right, thank you. That concludes our business items, and now we are at the mayor's report and questions. Mayor Hales.
Well, my report is, I don't know what I'm doing, so no. We had a great meeting. We've met since our oath of office today, And there were a lot of great things discussed, but I'm more than anything, I just want to tell the council how excited I am to work with you. I'm thrilled. It's an honor for me to be able to work with you and just work together with the council office, Jennifer and Patty and Crystal and each of you council members. So I'm excited, and that's my report.
Great. I think we're all excited to have you, so it's awesome. All right, any other comments? Any questions for the mayor?
I just want to say I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see where it goes, how we can be engaged and continue what we've discussed, I think, the whole way through your journey of becoming mayor. So I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you too, Cindy. I know it takes a lot of support from family to get here. So thank you for you and your support and encouraging him to run. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, we are adjourned.